So, what if a cure for cancer was already on the pharmacy shelf? It's a really powerful idea, isn't it? One that's just brimming with hope. But it's also a path that can be filled with some hidden dangers. Today, we're going to dig into why the simple solution is rarely the right one when it comes to something as complex as cancer.
It's the question that really gets everyone's hopes up. Could a simple, cheap drug be the big answer we've all been looking for? And you can see why that's so appealing. It's this thought that pulls so many people to look into these alternative ideas. So let's actually look at the science behind all this hope.
Okay, so this brings us to this concept called drug repurposing. It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You take a drug that's already approved for one thing, and you test it to see if it works for something totally different, in this case, cancer. And you can see the appeal right away.
I mean, the appeal is just undeniable, right? These drugs, they're often super inexpensive, they've already gone through safety testing for their original use, and they're just available. This all creates a really low barrier for patients who are, understandably, desperate for any option. It's kind of the perfect recipe for hope, and it's exactly what fuels the buzz around drugs like ivermectin. But, and this is a big but, to really get the risks with ivermectin, we first need to look back at another drug that went down this exact same road. It's a really critical case study to give us a powerful lesson. Let's talk about the anti-diabetic drug, Metformin.
Yeah, before ivermectin was even on the radar for most people, Metformin was the absolute golden child of repurposed cancer drugs. There was a ton of optimism in the scientific community, and honestly, for good reason. The early evidence looked incredibly strong.
The whole case for Metformin was built on what seemed like a solid foundation. You had strong results in the lab, you had success in animal models, and you even had data showing diabetic patients taking the drug had better cancer outcomes. Now, this is so important to understand. The evidence for Metformin back then was significantly stronger than anything we have for ivermectin today.
So, with all of this incredible promise, what happened? What happened when Metformin was finally put to the test in really rigorous clinical trials with cancer patients who didn't have diabetes?
The expectations were just sky high. Scientists genuinely thought this could be a total game changer. But the actual data that came back from those trials, well, it told a completely different and frankly, a deeply concerning story.
And this is where you just see the massive disconnect. The promise of slowing down tumors and improving outcomes, it just completely fell apart. For patients without diabetes, there was no significant benefit. But it gets worse. It actually led to harmful side effects. And, in some really tragic cases, it literally made the cancer progress faster.
This is the vital lesson from the whole Metformin story. What works in a petri dish or in a mouse just does not guarantee success in humans. Why? Because our bodies are infinitely more complex, with countless variables a lab test can't even begin to replicate. And even seeing good signs in one specific group, like diabetics, doesn't mean a drug will work safely for everyone else.
All right, so now let's turn to ivermectin. When you look at all the hype around it, you just can't help but see the parallels to the Metformin story. The pattern feels eerily familiar, doesn't it?
This is the question we absolutely have to ask ourselves. Are we just repeating history here? Are we getting all excited about a drug that's built on an even shakier foundation than the one that came before it and ultimately failed?
So if we look at the actual evidence for ivermectin, you see that familiar pattern. Yeah, some promising results in the lab, some positive signs in animal models, but its main proposed benefit, that it boosts immunotherapy, is totally unproven in people. And critically, it's missing that positive human observational data that even Metformin have going for it.
And this, right here, this is the stark reality of developing drugs. The journey from a promising lab result to an approved treatment for humans is incredibly, incredibly difficult. Get this, only about 3.4% of potential anti-cancer drugs actually make it through clinical trials. The odds are just massively stacked against any new candidate, repurposed or not.
Okay, so after all the theories, all the lab work, all the animal studies, what actually happens when ivermectin is given to human cancer patients in a real clinical trial? Well, fortunately, we now have the very first piece of data we can look at.
This is so crucial. All the online chatter, all the articles, it all boils down to this: a single, small pilot trial. It involved patients with advanced triple-negative breast cancer, which is a particularly aggressive form of the disease. These early results are our only real window into how ivermectin actually performs in people.
And here it is, the key number from that trial. The median progression-free survival, that's basically the average time patients lived before their cancer started growing again, was just 2.5 months.
Now, that 2.5-month number might not mean much by itself, but let's put it in context. The low end for standard, modern targeted drugs for these same patients is around 7.5 months. This comparison really shows you just how poor this result truly is.
So the takeaway here is just stark. The only human clinical evidence we have shows ivermectin performing 3 to 10 times worse than the established treatments we already have. It didn't just fail to be a miracle cure, it dramatically underperformed the existing standard of care.
This brings us to the most important part of this whole explainer. After everything we've looked at, the hope, the cautionary tale of metformin, the hard data, what is the #1 takeaway for patients and their families?
Let's be super clear on this term. The standard of care is not just a suggestion. It is the proven, evidence-based treatment that medical experts agree is the best available option for a specific type of cancer. It's the benchmark that any new treatment has to be better than.
And this leads us to the golden rule. Your oncologist is the expert. They have the training, they keep up with the research, and they understand your specific case. Self-medicating with drugs based on things you read online isn't just ineffective, as we saw with metformin, it can be incredibly dangerous. It can interfere with treatments that do work and potentially make things much, much worse. So we'll leave you with this to think about. In the fight against cancer, a false hope can actually lead people away from treatments that can save their lives and toward things that can cause real harm. It's just a powerful reminder that our hope, as strong as it is, must always, always be grounded in evidence and expertise. Thanks so much for joining us.